Hi, welcome to another episode of PSLE Science Made Simple. I'm Joanna and I'm a PSLE Science Specialist here at the Pique Lab. In this video, I'll be analysing a question on seed dispersal. I've also placed this question in a handout and you may download it for free by clicking on the link in the description box below. So let's get started. Let's look at this question. There are three different types of plants, X, Y, and Z, and they disperse their fruits on land as shown in these three diagrams here. So the seeds germinated and grew into young plants. The triangle represents the parent plant, while the X's represent the dispersed fruit or seeds, which then grew into young plants. So I'm pretty sure we have seen such questions before. What I'm going to do is to teach you all the technique to solve such questions. Before I introduce the technique to solve such questions, let us do a quick recap on the methods of seed dispersal. What are the four methods of seed dispersal? We have wind, we have water. What else? We also have splitting. And lastly, we also have seeds that are dispersed by animals. So these are the four methods. So for such questions, what I would need all of you to do is to first identify the dispersal pattern. Whether they are dispersed in a certain direction, whether they are dispersed along the sides of the river, whether they are clustered together, or whether they are just randomly dispersed. Once you have identified the pattern, you can then match it according to the dispersal method. So let's look at plant X first. How are the seeds dispersed in this diagram? If you look very carefully, they are all dispersed in a certain direction. They are all dispersed towards the right. What do you think caused all of these seeds to disperse only towards the right side? Yes, it must be the wind. The wind's direction must have been in this way, causing all the seeds to be dispersed to the right side of the parent plant. So since the seeds are all dispersed in the direction of the wind, we can conclude that the fruits of plant X are dispersed by what method? Wind, water, splitting, or animals? It is by wind. And therefore, let's match it to the options below. We are now supposed to choose the characteristics of the fruits that are dispersed by that specific method. So if the seeds are dispersed by wind, what kind of characteristic do you think they would have? Is it brightly colored fruit? If the fruits are brightly colored, most likely they are dispersed by animals, not wind. So this is wrong. Second option, they split open when ripe. Fruits that split open when ripe are dispersed by splitting, not wind. So this is wrong. Option number 3 tells us that the fruits of plant X has a wing-like structure. If the fruit has a wing-like structure, means its dispersal method would be, yes, it is by wind. So this is possible. How about having stiff hairs? When fruits have stiff hairs, it allows the fruit to be attached to where? Attached to the outer covering of animals. Which means if the fruits have stiff hairs, they are most likely to be dispersed by animals, not by wind. So let's cross this out as well. So this shows our only possible answer is number 3. So let's quickly confirm the dispersal method of the other two plants. And how do we do that? Remember, identify the pattern at which these seeds are dispersed. So if you look at plant Y, what kind of pattern are the seeds dispersed in? Do they have a specific pattern? No specific pattern, right? They are all randomly dispersed. Now, if the seeds are randomly dispersed, what do you think is the method of seed dispersal? Which method allows the seeds to be randomly dispersed? Could it be by water? No, if it is by water, the seeds are found along the sides of the water body. So cannot be by water. How about by splitting? If the fruits are dispersed by splitting, they would be clustered around the parent plant. So not by splitting as well. So it has to be by animals. So since these fruits are dispersed by animals, they have what kind of characteristics? They can have stiff hairs. As mentioned earlier, what do the stiff hairs do? They get attached to the outer covering of the animal. And when the animals move, The seeds are carried further away from the parent plant, and the seeds will then fall off the outer covering and be dispersed away from the parent plant randomly. Is brightly colored fruits possible? Yes, because brightly colored fruits would attract the animal to eat the fruits. And during that process, when the animals eat the fruit, if the fruit has small seeds, the seeds are going to be swallowed and passed out together with the waste of the animals further away from the parent plant. And what if the fruits have large seeds? The animals wouldn't swallow these large seeds, but they would spit out these large seeds further away from the parent plant. So stiff husk is possible. How about fibrous husk? When the fruits have fibrous husk, how are the seeds dispersed? By water. What do the fibrous husks do? They trap air, allowing the fruit to float on water, causing the fruits to then be dispersed further away from the parent plant. So fibrous husk is not possible because having fibrous husk would mean that the fruits are dispersed by water, not animals. Okay, and last but not least, let's quickly identify the pattern of the dispersed fruits. Plant Z. If you look closely, they are all clustered around the parent plant, which means these fruits are dispersed by what method? By splitting. And fruits that are dispersed by splitting would have a certain characteristic, right? What characteristic would the fruits have? They would have a pod-like structure. This pod-like structure would allow the fruit to split open when the fruit is ripe, throwing the seeds forcefully around the parent plant, causing the seeds to be clustered or scattered around the parent plant as what you see in this diagram here. Since we already concluded that our answer is number 3, let's just quickly check that the fruit of plant Z has a pod-like structure which splits open when ripe. Yes, it does. So this confirms our answer is number 3.
Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this video. If you found this video useful, do give us a thumbs up. If you want to check out the other videos we made, click on the links on the right-hand side. Last but not least, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more interesting videos. Thank you, and I'll see you next time. Bye!